For those that don't know what happened yesterday, and I've got to ask about the dynamics and the dimensions of this. Burton Albion comes knocking on South Georgia Tormenta's door and is like, we like one of your players. And Nick Akoto is now a part of the Brewers over on the other side of the Atlantic. And you set a record for a transfer fee in USL League One. And it's a special day on a bunch of different levels because of the scouting and the development and knowing that Nick is a talented player. And then folks knock on your door, and now you move him on to his next frontier.
It went pretty fast, John. We had probably turned down 5 offers for Nick over the past year already. But the one with Burton went pretty quickly. Lots of pros on their side. And it probably all got done in about 72 hours.
Really?
By the time it was there, at least on the verbal commitments. Had some paperwork to do and that sort of thing, but it was well on its way. We probably started talking about it on a Thursday, and we had Nick back in England by Tuesday morning.
How does something like this work? I mean, is it literally like WhatsApp and phone calls, and it's like, Mr. Van Tassell? Mr. Van Tassell, Burton Albion calling. How does this work?
It's just communication. It's not overly sexy more than anything else. But listen, we've tried to, as a club, tried to be ready for these conversations when they've happened. It's not the first time we've transferred. We've never transferred anyone at this level, much less for for these kind of rewards and the ones that hopefully will keep coming as Nick continues to grow. But it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. It's the legitimizers we want happening to our club. I have to say it probably is a legitimizer for the USL as much as it is for Nick and for Tormenta.
When you look at what Nick has been able to accomplish and how he has grown, not just as an athlete, but as an individual, what has it been like to see him grow and mature to the young man that he is, to where he can represent Tormenta now over back in England with Burton Albion?
He had a massive amount of growth, and I will give our organization a lot of credit for that. Nick came to us sort of not terribly well known. He came to the United States, played NAIA, won a title at Kaiser, but not really on many people's radar. But it was that League Two summer. It was clear to us what sort of athlete Nick was, but he was pretty raw. So when you bring that world-class NFL wide receiver speed with that sort of body, you got to learn to play defense and a whole bunch of things. And he did that. He took that to heart. And Nick also became kind of the DNA of our club. I love that his first photo with Burton back in England was with the Burton scarf, and he had one of our Tormenta tribute jerseys to Carter Payne, and he turned it backwards.
Yeah.
He and Carter were best friends. And so when we lost Carter, that, what people wouldn't know, every training top that Nick has Carter's name on the back. Nobody sees it, just the team. But it was something that mattered to him, and he's been wearing that for the last couple of years. So I think in his big moment, to also want to pay homage to the club that he came from, that's who we want to be. That's fun. That's what sports is there. And meanwhile, we've got to go win out in Fresno this weekend. Headed to the airport here in about 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to circle back to Carter and Nick for a little bit of it, but yeah, you got the wheels up from Statesboro to Fresno. I know it's leaving in a couple hours. That direct flight is right there waiting for you. I know it is.
Yeah, thankfully it's only one stop.
Yeah. All right. So break this down for me. How do you get from Savannah to Fresno?
Straight through Dallas, DFW.
Okay.
It's a bang bang.
Okay.
We have not done a single trip that was more than one stop, and many of them are nonstops. One of the best kept secrets is the Savannah Hilton Head Airport. It's spot on.
Okay. We'll have to talk to those folks about being such a great secret. Another part of what happened yesterday was that you brought in a Georgian who is a legend in southeastern USL football, to help you out for the remainder of the year. It's not every day that you can knock on a door and sit there and go, Aaron Walker, come on in and help things out. I mean, that was a pretty big. I think that kind of flew below the radar. Everybody was looking at the Nick Akoto signing and going, yeah, that's a big blanking deal. But you bring in somebody to help you out with that kind of experience that was a part of the derby in years past.
And we've been working on Aaron for a bit. It wasn't linked to Nick's transfer. We felt like we needed some leadership in the midfield. I got tired of playing against Aaron. Same was true with Connor Doyle when he was at Union Omaha and Chattanooga before then. The having that kind of leadership in our midfield now is really important. Listen, Aaron's 34, Connor's 32. It certainly gives us a pretty older midfield. I like experience. But we have so many first-year pros that leadership's going to be critical for us. And he arrived. He is active, and we'll be hopping on the airplane here in a couple hours as well.
That's crazy. I mean, when you have the second half of the season right now, north of the playoff bar, and focusing now on the run-in when it comes to chasing after playoffs and chasing after yet another title. Where right now do you think your squad is when it comes to the chaos that is traditionally USL League One getting into the second half of this season?
We had to make some decisions. How much do we add to the club by adding personnel, and how much do we double down on what we have? In general, we're doubling down. I think we've got the right folks, but I also don't think we're done adding quite yet. Ask me that question again in a couple more weeks. We've got to, I think, strengthen a couple of spots for us. Active in negotiations. We'll see how quickly that will bear fruit. But for the most part, I like our team. I think we got the right mixture. We were young, a lot of first-year pros making some first-year mistakes, but we're also growing like first-year pros can do all at the same time. So, it's the fun time of year. We gave ourselves some challenges 2 weeks ago to get the most points in our league in all competitions. We've gotten 5 points in those last 2 games. Hopefully there's another 3 coming this weekend.
Right now, and I will always maintain that USL League One is one of the most competitive leagues on the planet because of how chaotic it can be. Right now, you've got 2 groups. And your first group is 5 teams separated by 3 points. Union Omaha, Greenville, Ford, Madison, Charlotte, and 1 Knox. They're all separated by 3 points right now. And then you're a part of that second group of 6 through 10 where you're the leader in the pack. And you've got Spokane chasing you, Chattanooga chasing you, Hailstorm chasing you, Richmond chasing you. And it's 5 teams separated by, once again, 3 points. And so this is, for anyone who knows USL League One, this is normal for you. This is the chaos is normal.
Yeah, it's very normal. And we've played more games too, so we can't afford to drop too many points along the way. So listen, this is also really, really fun. Fuego's a desperate team. They're going to give us all kind of fits. Jermaine Jones is a seasoned professional. That team is really starting to find his personality. That takes some time to get done. So we've got to be at our best. But listen, that's why we're playing. That's the whole game. That's the whole fun part about this.
There are a lot of Jermaine Jones jokes that can be said. You mentioned how they adopt his playing style. So it's like, okay, so it's grabbing folks, pulling them down, getting unnecessary yellow card. There's a Jermaine Jones joke in there somewhere, but we mean that in the physical sense.
Well, they did get 2 late red cards against Madison on Wednesday, so there's 2 center backs are not available for selection. There was some grabbing and pulling down.
So some yelling,
ironic on cue,
yelling at officials and making sure that
nothing like that. It wasn't for dissent, but it was anyway. The red booked late, and we'll have to take advantage of it. But it's just going to make them hungrier. There's probably going to be a few more midfielders on the field, and they are pressing like crazy. So anyway, this should be a fun game to watch.
No doubt.
Clearly, USL After Dark, 11 o'clock Eastern. For those keeping track.
Oh boy, I wanted to circle back to Nick and Carter here before we let you go. Greg Garza coming up at the bottom of the hour to discuss things from our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. To see that photo of Nick and continuing to remember Carter and to have that as a part of his own DNA, and it's always going to be a part of Tormenta's DNA. What did it mean to everybody to know that he's always that close, in the sense of Nick's always going to be that close to Carter? Nick's always going to have that piece of the organization with him. He's always going to have that tie to his friend with him. I thought that was a really cool photo that discusses Nick's present and what he's carrying with him from his past as well.
I think when you play in a market the size of ours, you have to be as close to a family as possible. It has to be one of our X factors for us. Clearly, Nick felt that way. The organization feels that way. Family can move all over the world. They just stay in the circle. Nick clearly will be that. I didn't even know I was supposed to be a Burton Albion fan a week ago, but I am now. I know all about the Brewers. And so what fun it's going to be. And you know, when you have your biggest moments in life and you want to make sure that is also recognized, because Sterling did that when we won the cup that night. He wanted Nick's shirt on. It was his version of the same shirt.
Yeah.
That Nick had on, and all the players wore it that night. So listen, legacies are important, and names being spoken often and being remembered are is a part of the human condition. We thrive on those moments, and we want to keep winning and looking for all the new things that are to come. So that part's great. Can't wait to watch Nick play. I know Nick will be keeping up every bit. I texted with Nick several times yesterday, even. And with so many eyes on the EFL and League One, we can thank Ryan Reynolds and Rob for the wonderful version. He gets to play against Wrexham. I already noted when those dates are going to be, but there's several Premier League teams that are now in League One who've been up at that high before. So great stuff. It shows you probably in our country how the sport of soccer in our country is more connected to the global game than perhaps any of our other sports that we follow collectively. I find that pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, very, very cool as always. And by the way, Burton Albion kicks off against the Imps of Lincoln City Saturday, August the 10th at a 5:30 local time kick. And so they've kind of staggered things a little bit. And I know that there's going to be a massive iPlayer subscription coming out of Statesboro, Georgia, to make sure that everybody's keeping an eye on Burton Albion, eh?
I'm going to have to learn even how to get registered. So fun stuff. Thanks for letting me come on this morning and talking about it. You always have your pulse on all things soccer, and clearly you've already been on the press conference for Team Canada.
Yeah, it's yeah.
They keep winning. I don't know what they're doing, but they won last night, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so we'll find out. We'll get into that. As always, my friend, go pack and be safe and get to Fresno in one piece. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks.
All right, John. Be well. Bye-bye.
Right, that's Darin. That's DVT. Darin van Tassell, Grand Exalted Pooh Bob, everything South Georgia Tormenta. Big day. Big day for South Georgia Tormenta. Big day for USL League One. Big day for soccer in Statesboro in general. So a lot of different markers hit with the Nick Akoto signing, as Nick is now a part of Burton Albion. Like I said, Burton Albion starting your season off at home against Lincoln City in League One. Like I said, I know there's going to be a lot of iPlayer subscriptions that will be coming out of Statesboro, Georgia, to see what's going on. It's Barnsley, Mansfield, Birmingham City, who was relegated from the championship, Reading. So Jessica Charman is going to have she's going to have a vested interest in what's going on. So Jessica Charman and Nick Akoto. So Burton Albion and Reading, keep an eye when that matchup pops up. You've got Blackpool, who was in the Prem, Rotherham, who got relegated from the championship last year. They had a horrendous season in the championship, first one to be relegated. Bolton Wanderers, we know about Bolton and their history in the Premier League. Huddersfield had a couple of seasons under David Wagner in the Premier League before they were relegated. And so you're looking at Wigan also. Wrexham. We know about Wigan and their win in the FA Cup over Manchester City, where Gus Johnson, Warren Barton, you hear Gus Johnson yell, "Miracle!" when Wigan beat Manchester City. Roberto Martinez, the former head coach at Wigan Athletic, was a part of that. Then Charlton Athletic, we know about their ownership issues. Wrexham does not have ownership issues. They're in League One. Wycombe Wanderers, they had a cup of coffee in the championship. They're back down to League One. So that is what you're staring at with Nick Akoto and Burton Albion. Yeah, I kept talking to Darin. Darin had to catch a plane. He had to get ready and actually, pack for a trip to Fresno, California. So late tonight, and it is USL After Dark, USL League One After Dark with Fresno and South Georgia Tormenta. And so it's always, like I said, it's always cool to get what's going on in USL League One. Always great to find out what's going on there with Darin and what they're building on a bunch of different levels with South Georgia Tormenta and USL League One. So the USL League One, you can catch up with our USL League One programming, our review preview that we always post. Just to give you a quick reminder about what's going on. Big day Saturday. They're the late night game Saturday at Fresno against Central Valley. Greenville's hosting One Knox. Lex SC is hosting Richmond Kickers. Forward Madison's hosting Hailstorm. Union Omaha's hosting Red Wolves. Spokane is hosting Charlotte. Central Valley is hosting South Georgia Tormenta. So this is the week when the Eastern teams go west.